Here in this first lesson at the Ukulele Academy, we're going to be discussing the anatomy of the ukulele. So what makes this ukulele different than, say, a guitar or a mandolin or something like that? What makes your ukulele? And then also, we're going to talk about how we can find the different parts of your ukulele. So say later on in future lessons, we're going to talk about, okay, so grab the tuning peg. Oh, well, where's the tuning peg? That's what we're going to talk about today. So first off, if you haven't found worksheet number 1, it'll be in the chapter section. Go ahead and find that. You can pull it up, have it on your screen, or print it out so that you can follow along with me as we talk about it together. If you haven't done that, go ahead and pause this and do that right now. All right, great. So we have worksheet number 1. Let's start off on the left side of the worksheet. You'll see 3 different terms listed there. Now these 3 terms are the big categories of the ukulele: the head, the neck, and the body. And if you think about it, it's the same as a human. It's the same anatomy as a human. If you hold up your ukulele next to yourself like this, you have the head at the top, the neck, which connects the head with the body. Head, neck, body. So that's really the big chunks of the ukulele, you could say, and the different pieces or the specific parts of the ukulele are put on top of either the head, the neck, or the body. Make sense? Let's look at the right side of the page, so on this side of your worksheet, and let's look at those specific terms together. Up at top, we have the tuners. Now the tuners, or the tuning pegs, they're called either or, are these little things that jut off of the head of the instrument. These are used to adjust the tension placed on the strings. So we turn them one way, they tighten the string, or put more tension on it, and we turn it the other way, and it loosens the string, or puts less tension on the string. This is used in tuning, which we'll talk about later in the video courses. Next up, we have the nut. And the nut is the part that separates the head from the neck of the ukulele. You can find it, if yours is the same color, you can find it by noticing where the string ends and starts to bend towards the tuners. So it's the exact point where the note, or where the strings, if you pluck it, stop vibrating. They stop vibrating right here at the nut. Let's keep on moving down. We have the frets. The frets are these little pieces of metal that run that run vertically up and down where we place our left hand. So right here is a fret, right here is a fret, and right here is a fret. And they go all the way up what we call, the next term, the fretboard. The fretboard is what is used to organize the spacing of frets here on the ukulele. And if you'll notice, if you're holding your ukulele, they start large, large space, and then as you move to the right, they get to be really, really tiny. So that is the fretboard. Also, if you'll notice on the fretboard, this is kind of just a bonus, a lot of ukuleles have these little dots, and people always wonder, what do these little dots mean? Really, they're just there kind of like a landmark. So instead of trying to find, fret 6 or fret 7 or whatever, we can use these dots as landmarks so that we know exactly where fret 5 is. Boom, right there. We'll talk more about fret numbers later on in the course, but that's just a little heads up, a look ahead, you could say. Next up, we have on the body of the instrument, the sound hole. Now the sound hole is very important to the instrument. If there weren't any sound hole, the sound of the instrument would be vastly different. Here's why. If we didn't have the body of the instrument, if we didn't have something that the sound, well, it was kind of like this box at the end of the instrument, the body of the instrument. If we didn't have that, the sound would be drastically reduced. Here's why. When we strike a chord, the sound goes from the strings down into the body of the instrument and bounces all around until it comes shooting out of the sound hole so that our listeners or ourselves can hear that beautiful sound that the instrument makes. That's why the sound hole is so important. And lastly, we have the bridge. The bridge is the other side of the string, so it's the other point of connection with the strings. If you change your strings anytime on a ukulele, you're going to attach them first to the bridge, stretch them over the nut, and then wrap them around the tuning pegs. So this is one end of the string, this is the other end of the string, right there. All of these things, by the way, the nut and the bridge are all placed in a perfectly positioned place, if you have a good quality instrument, a perfectly positioned place so that your frets will keep your strings perfectly in tune. If we move this bridge back and forth, or we move the nut back and forth, well, then we're going to have some tuning problems. But you should be fine. Honestly, 99.9% of ukuleles out there are fine. So that concludes the anatomy of our ukulele. Let's talk a little bit about how to hold the instrument. If you'll take your left hand, so notice on the video this is your right, but take your left hand, hold it up, and grab the neck of the instrument. Hold it out just like that. If you now turn it counterclockwise, right into your body, this is the direction that your ukulele will face. Now notice your left hand will be all over the fretboard, but your right hand and your right arm, we press the top corner of the body up against our forearm, right there. So that whether I'm sitting or I'm standing, I have a good hold on the instrument without having to use my hand to hold it. There's different styles to this. Some people like to hold it from the bottom here and use their thumb. Really, it depends on what works for you. But my style and most people's style is they press it right here, and then notice where that puts your hand. It puts it right in front of the sound hole. And that's just about where you want to be. That concludes lesson number 1. I hope you learned a lot about the anatomy of the instrument as well as how to hold it properly.